It started with quiet, but not the nice kind. Not the kind that feels like a warm blanket. No, this quiet was sharp and strange, like a knife cutting the air. Whoopi Goldberg sat very still, blinking too fast. Her friends on the show looked at each other, worried. The people watching the show, who were laughing just a moment ago, were now totally silent. And standing there under the bright, hot lights of the view was Keanu Reeves. He was calm, touching the little cross necklace he always wore. He wasn't mad. He wasn't nervous. He was something stronger. He was calm and sure. You could almost feel the heavy feeling in the room. The cameras showed everything live, and later people online would say, Hollywood just got a wake-up call, and his name is Keanu. But before that big moment, before the internet went wild and hashtags popped up everywhere, something small happened. Something quiet. It started with an email. "We'd love to have you join us for a thoughtful talk about generations in America," said the message from the show's producers. The email sounded simple, but Keanu's helpers knew better. "This feels weird," one assistant said, reading the message again. "Whoopi acts nice on TV, but she's been practicing her sarcasm for 20 years. They want you to say something they can twist. They want drama." Keanu smiled gently, adjusting the old leather strap on his bag. "Then I won't give them drama," he said. "I'll give them something real." What he didn't say out loud, but felt deep inside, was this. Sometimes a storm doesn't come to break things. It comes to clean the air. By the time Keanu walked onto the stage wearing his black jacket and plain grey t-shirt, people online were already talking. "Why is The View inviting someone like Keanu?" some people asked. "He's too quiet, too spiritual, too different." Others warned, "They're setting him up. Watch closely." But Keanu wasn't there for the people who argue all the time. He was there for the ones in between, the ones who feel forgotten. He shook hands, smiled at the camera, sat down, and looked right at Whoopi. She smiled back, but her smile was more like a TV smile, not a real one. You could already tell she was planning something. The first few words between them were nice and polite. But then, things changed. "So, Keanu," Whoopi said, pretending to be light and funny, "you still wearing that cross necklace? I thought after The Matrix you would have outgrown stuff like that." The audience laughed nervously. It sounded like a joke, but it was also kind of mean. She was teasing him for his faith. Keanu didn't blink. "I wear it," he said softly, "because it reminds me there's something bigger than fame. Something bigger than me." Some people clapped. Others sat very still. Whoopi tilted her head and smiled again, but the smile was cold now. "Don't you think, with everything going wrong in the world, maybe it's time to leave old stories like that behind?" she asked. That was the moment. You could feel it, like a wave about to crash. Keanu leaned forward. His voice was calm but strong. "The world doesn't need fewer beliefs, Whoopi," he said. "It needs better ones." Boom. The whole room felt it. A man in the third row said, "Whoa!" loud enough for the microphone to catch. Backstage, someone whispered to a friend, "He's turning the whole room around. And now it's your turn. If you believe that being kind, having values, or having faith still matters, click the like button and comment the number 9. Tell us if you've ever felt made fun of just for believing in something. Because this story isn't just about Keanu or Whoopi. It's about you. About everyone who's ever been laughed at for standing up for what they believe. And Keanu wasn't done yet. He looked around at the lights, the cameras, the people, and then back at Whoopi. "You can laugh at symbols," he said quietly, "but you can't take away what they mean. People have held on to hope long before anyone ever clapped for them. That line hit hard. He didn't shout. He didn't try to be cool. He just told the truth. Whoopi's smile shook a little. She held her cards tighter. Keanu just sat there, calm and still. And for the first time in a long time, the view didn't feel like Whoopi's show. It felt like Keanu's moment. He didn't come to fight. He came with something deeper. Something nobody expected. Whoopi shifted in her chair and tried to smile again. "Well," she said, trying to sound normal, "you sure brought a lot of deep thoughts today." The audience laughed a little, but it wasn't the big laugh she usually got. The room felt tight, like the air had changed. Keanu just tilted his head. His face was calm. "I didn't come with ideas," he said quietly. "I came with what I've lived." The way he said it, soft, clear, felt like it cut through all the noise. It wasn't a comeback. It was real. Whoopi flipped through her cards, trying to move on. "Let's talk about something fun," she said, her voice sounding rushed. "You've played heroes, rebels, even a cyber savior. But when do you stop acting? When do you start thinking you are a hero?" Ouch. That was a sharp one. She was trying to make him look proud or silly. Keanu didn't change his face. He waited, then leaned in just a bit. "None of it," he said. "But the day I stopped pretending to be invincible was the day I found strength." Whoopi blinked. The crowd went quiet again. Keanu wasn't playing the TV game. He was making new rules right there on stage, and that made her nervous. "So you came here to teach us all a lesson," she said, getting a little sharper. "You think wearing that little cross makes you better than us?" Keanu didn't get upset. "No," he said. "It reminds me I'm not better than anyone, and I'm not worse off either. It's not armor. It's a mirror." And then, finally, a crack. Whoopi's fake smile dropped just a little too far. She reached for her water, but there was no glass. A producer ran to get one and tripped over a wire. In the control room, someone whispered, "We're losing the flow." In the audience, things had changed. People weren't just watching now. They were feeling. Heads nodded. A man whispered, "He's right." A woman in the back row wiped a tear from her eye. Keanu wasn't preaching. He was remembering. And that made others remember, too. Whoopi leaned back and tried again. "Okay," she said, grabbing the next card like it was her last chance. "You're spiritual, but you work in a world full of showing off and bad behavior. How do you live with that?" Keanu took a breath. "You mean how do I live in darkness and still light a candle?" She didn't say anything. He went on. "Because if you only shine when it's safe, that's not real light. That's just a show." There was a big, quiet pause. It was heavy, honest. It wasn't meant to be a viral moment, but it would be. A woman in the front row stood up slowly. She didn't say anything. She just nodded, a deep nod, like she'd been holding something heavy for a long time. Whoopi tried to joke. "So now we're doing church," she said, her voice going a little high. Nobody laughed. And then Keanu did something no one expected. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old photo. It was worn and folded. "This was my sister," he said. "She taught me to pray before I even knew what I was praying for." He held up the necklace. He wasn't showing it to get people to feel sorry for him. He showed it because it reminded him of someone he loved. "She believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself," he said. He touched the little cross again. "I still wear it, not for all of you, but for her." The room got very, very quiet. No one clapped. No one laughed. It was like the quiet was a sound all by itself. Whoopi, the host, stopped. Her hand shook a little while holding her cards. The camera showed her eyes. She blinked fast because they were getting watery. But now, it wasn't about her. It wasn't about making the show popular or funny. This was something real. Like when someone just walks in quietly and sits down and everyone knows they matter. The audience didn't cheer. They didn't giggle. They just listened. In that moment, the most powerful voice wasn't the host's. It was the guest's, the man who was okay with silence. The silence felt like fog. It filled the room. Even the walls felt like they were thinking about what just happened. Whoopi looked toward the people behind the cameras, hoping someone would tell her what to do. But nobody said a word. Nobody moved. Keanu, the guest, sat calmly. His hands were folded. The old photo he had shown was on the arm of his chair. It looked old, like it had been held a lot and loved a lot. He wasn't showing off. He wasn't trying to make people cheer. He was just giving space for feelings, for truth, for people watching who had never seen something so true on a talk show. Whoopi knew it too. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded different, sharper. "That's a sweet story," she said, kind of joking but not really nice. "But come on, you're a rich actor. You fly in fancy planes. You live in your own world. Why do you think you understand people who are really having a hard time?" She wanted the crowd to laugh with her. But they didn't. Keanu looked at her, calm and kind, not mad. "Because I have had hard times too," he said. "Not just in my heart. I've slept in cars. I've lost the people I loved the most. I've gone into rooms where no one saw who I am now. They only saw who I used to be." He waited, letting the words sit quietly in the air. If you think money makes pain go away, then maybe you've never lost something you can never get back. People in the audience murmured softly. Whoopi sat straighter in her seat. She looked tense. Her plan to trap him didn't work. Now people saw that maybe she was the one who didn't understand. But she tried again. "So what?" she said with a fake laugh. "Now you're the hero? You're going to save everybody with your sad story and your little necklace?" Keanu leaned back, calm again. Not scared. In control. "No," he said, soft but strong. "I'm not here to save anyone. I'm here because someone watching this show today needs to know they are not alone. That even here, in a noisy place made for jokes and clapping, real truth can still be shared." Then he looked right at the camera. He didn't do it to be dramatic. He did it like someone who wanted to talk to the people at home. If you've ever been told you're too soft, or too old-fashioned, or silly for believing in something big, if you've ever felt small for having hope, this moment is for you. He looked into the camera, like he could see right through it, into the homes of everyone watching. And then something amazing happened. A voice came from the audience. It was young, shaky, and real. "I used to believe," the voice said. Everyone turned. A young man, maybe in his early 20s, slowly stood up. "But then the world told me it was dumb. But watching you, listening to this, it makes me want to try again." The whole room stopped. Whoopi looked surprised. Her hand shook a little as she grabbed the next card, but she didn't read it. "Let's take a break," she said, trying to move on. But the cameras didn't stop. The director knew this was too special to cut away from. Keanu looked at the young man and nodded gently. "Then don't let the world tell you who you are. Let your actions show it." Another soft wave went through the audience. This wasn't just a TV show anymore. This was a big moment that people would talk about everywhere. Online, people were typing fast. Keanu just changed daytime TV. Whoopi just got humbled. Faith is back, and it's wearing a black jacket. Whoopi tried again to change the subject. Okay. Enough with the church talk. Let's talk about politics. You make movies about peace, but don't speak out about other things. Why not? Are you scared of losing fans? Keanu didn't smile. I speak when it's real, he said. And I stay quiet when it's just noise. He leaned forward, eyes steady. The real question isn't why I don't yell about everything. The real question is why people keep wanting more anger instead of more kindness. That moment flipped the whole room. People at home weren't just watching. They were feeling something deep. The audience wasn't clapping. They were thinking. And for the first time in a long time, Whoopi wasn't in charge of the moment. The lights felt extra bright. The air felt thick. The silence was huge. Whoopi sat straighter, looked around, hoping someone would say, "Okay, time for a break." But no one did. The red recording light was still glowing. Keanu didn't move. He stayed peaceful, like the middle of a storm, calm and strong. "So now you're the wise one?" Whoopi asked sharply. "Just because you had some sad days and wore a necklace, you think you can teach everyone else?" Keanu didn't blink. He said, "I don't think I'm better than anyone. But I do think there's something wrong when kindness is laughed at, and believing in something good is made into a joke." Whoopi gave a half smile, but her eyes didn't smile. "Or maybe," she said, "some of us are just tired of being told we're broken just because we don't believe in fairy tales." That was the moment. The one where she crossed the line. Everyone in the room felt it. A soft noise went through the crowd. Someone gasped. One of the co-hosts looked down at her notepad and didn't say a word. Keanu sat very still. He touched the little cross again. "You call it a fairy tale," he said gently. "But for me, it was the only thing I had left when my world fell apart. It didn't fix everything. It didn't take away the hurt. But it gave me something to hold on to when I had nothing else." He turned a little and looked at the whole crowd. "And I know I'm not the only one. Some of you have lost more than I have. Some of you are barely holding on. And if the only thing you have is belief, then hold it tight. Don't let the world make you feel silly for having hope." It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was strong. Stronger than any shout. The audience started to move. People leaned forward. A woman wiped tears from her eyes. A man sitting near the edge of the row gave a small, kind nod. Then, from the side of the stage, someone who worked there, a young guy in his 20s, stepped just into view and said softly, "He's right." Whoopi turned around quickly. "What did you say?" she asked, surprised. The young man didn't look scared. He said it again. "He's right. I grew up watching this show, but I've never seen anyone say something so true and real. Maybe we need more truth like that." The whole room got really, really quiet. Then something strange happened. A message popped up on the big screen. It was a message from a teenager who had written to the show before it started. Someone behind the scenes pressed the button too early, and the message showed up now. It said, "I feel really sad all the time. I'm depressed. If you're going to talk about hope, please don't make it into a joke." Everyone was shocked. The timing was perfect and sad. The people in the audience didn't feel awkward anymore. They felt something real. They started to understand. Whoopi tried to change the subject. She tried to keep things light. but her voice shook a little. "Well, this show sure took a turn," she said. But it didn't feel funny anymore. Even her joke didn't work. Keanu looked at her. He wasn't mad. He wasn't trying to be better than her. He just looked sad. "No," Keanu said softly. "The show didn't go the wrong way. It went the way it needed to go. We always try to avoid talking about real things. So when someone finally says something honest, we act like it's a mistake." Keanu stood up, not to leave, not to be dramatic, but just to be there. "I didn't come here to preach or show off," he said. "I came because someone might be watching who really needs to hear this. And if they are, I want them to know they're not weird or wrong for still believing in something." The camera showed Whoopi again. She was sitting very still. The papers in her lap were messy now. She had no words. She didn't argue. She didn't even try. The crowd didn't clap. But they stood up, slowly, one person at a time, row by row. They didn't cheer. They gave Keanu something even better: quiet attention and respect. It felt like something you only see at really big, serious moments like funerals or big marches for change. Keanu was at the edge of the stage now. He wasn't acting cool or proud. He was just standing. His quietness wasn't fake. It was real. The whole room felt full, even though no one was talking. The silence was heavy, but in a good way. And Whoopi, she stayed seated. She looked smaller now. Her note cards sat in her lap like pieces of a game she didn't know how to play anymore. She looked at Keanu, unsure if she should talk, say sorry, or let him walk away. But Keanu didn't leave. He walked a little closer. Not to scare her, not to fight. Just to finish what they started. "I didn't come here to make fun of anyone," he said. His voice was kind, but strong. "You asked me to be here. I came because I thought we were going to talk." Whoopi let out a small breath. The kind of breath you take when your feelings are hurt, but you're trying to understand. "We were," she said. Her voice was quiet now, but it got deeper than I thought it would. Keanu nodded. "Maybe that's what we've all forgotten how to do. Go deep. We're so used to yelling, arguing, and making fun of each other. We forgot how to sit with something that feels hard until it teaches us something." The audience moved a little. Not loudly, just shifting in their seats. They were listening. Not just to a famous actor. They were listening to someone speak to the part of them that wanted to feel seen. Keanu kept going. "I didn't always believe. I had years where I felt nothing inside. No joy. No reason to be here. I was angry. I was numb. But then I met people who didn't try to fix me. They just stayed. They sat with me in the dark until I found my own light." He looked at Whoopi. She looked emotional now. "You don't have to believe what I believe," he said gently, "but please don't make fun of the one thing that helps some people stay alive." That hit everyone hard. You could hear people crying. Some bowed their heads, not because they were embarrassed, but because they felt something powerful. An older man whispered to his wife, "This isn't a talk show anymore. This is something different." Backstage, the people running the cameras were frozen. One of the top producers, who had worked on TV shows for years, said, "We just lost the show's script, but we made history." Then, something unexpected happened. Whoopi wiped her face. Not in a big, dramatic way. Just a quiet tear she didn't think would come. "I didn't mean to make it personal," she said. Her voice sounded tired and real. "Sometimes we're on camera so much, we forget how to be real." Keanu didn't look proud. He didn't smile. He just nodded. Being real is hard, he said, but it's the only thing that matters. Then something really surprising happened. A producer walked onto the stage, which almost never happens during live shows. He handed Keanu a phone. "There's something you need to see," he said quietly. Keanu looked at the phone. It was a message from someone watching the show. It was already being shared all over the internet. The message said, "I was going to end my life today. But then I saw Keanu Reeves talk about pain and hope. I'm still here. Thank you." Everyone gasped. Whoopi dropped her hand to her lap. The audience didn't see a movie star anymore. They saw someone real. A person who didn't come to make them laugh. He came to wake them up. Keanu gave the phone back. He looked at the room one more time. "If the only thing I did today was remind someone that their pain doesn't mean they're broken, then it was worth it." Then, the room took a big breath together. A soft clap started. Not loud. Not like a concert. It was gentle. Like people were trying not to ruin the moment. Like people had been changed. Whoopi, still sitting, looked up at him. Her eyes were soft now. Not angry. Maybe even thankful. "You didn't come here just for a moment," she said. "You came here to mean something." Keanu smiled just a little and said, "We all should." And just like that, the show didn't end with music or bright lights. It ended in silence, the kind that stays in the room, even after everyone leaves. The stage lights were still on, but no one noticed them anymore. The clapping had stopped, but it felt like something big and holy had just happened. Whoopi, the strong and funny lady who had hosted so many shows, sat very still, her hands in her lap. No jokes this time. Just quiet. Keanu hadn't tried to win. He hadn't yelled. He had used kindness. And because of that, the stage didn't belong to her anymore. It belonged to something bigger. Backstage, the workers were running around. Online, the video clips were already spreading. People on TikTok and Twitter were sharing everything. One tweet said, "Keanu didn't win a fight. He changed the room. And the most amazing part? He didn't raise his voice. He raised the bar." Back on the stage, Whoopi finally spoke again. This time, it wasn't for the crowd. She looked down and said softly, "You said something earlier about people needing to feel seen. I think maybe I forgot how to do that." Keanu looked at her with a calm, kind face. He had stayed calm ever since he walked into the room. "We all forget things," he said, "but the good news is we can remember." There was a long, quiet moment. It wasn't weird, it was needed. Then she looked up, her eyes full of little tears, and gave a soft smile. "You've got people crying in here, Keanu. That's not supposed to happen at 10 in the morning." Some people laughed a little, but it wasn't mean. It felt like the room could finally breathe again. Keanu didn't make a joke. He just nodded. "Sometimes one person has to stop acting," he said, "so everyone else can relax and be real." Whoopi gave a funny little laugh and sigh, like when you realize you were wrong, but it's okay. "You came here for a reason," she said, "and I think you did even more than you planned." Keanu looked around at the cameras, the workers, and the people sitting again, looking different now. "I didn't come here to fix the whole world," he said. "Just to remind people that being kind, being true, and keeping faith, those things aren't weak. They are the strongest things we still have." Then something happened that no one thought would. Whoopi turned to the camera and looked straight into it. For the first time in a long time, she stopped acting. "If you're watching this," she said, "and you ever felt like your faith, your sadness, Or your quiet strength made you feel left out? Maybe we've been wrong. Maybe we've been laughing at the wrong things. The camera didn't turn away. The people behind the scenes didn't stop her. This wasn't a fun TV show anymore. It became something real. In her earpiece, a voice said, "We need to wrap it up." Whoopi waited. Then she didn't listen to it. She looked at Keanu again, this time with full honesty. "Thank you," she said. "Not just for coming on the show, but for not changing into what everyone else wants you to be." Keanu gave a tiny smile. A smile that said many things without words. "They didn't invite me to be myself," he said, "but that's who showed up anyway." That sentence later went everywhere. People printed it on shirts. It showed up in news stories. Even teachers used it in class to talk about honesty. But right then, it wasn't a cool saying. It was just the truth. And as the last seconds of the show ran out, Keanu looked at the people one last time. "We live in a world where making fun of people is like a game," he said, calm and steady. "But maybe the bravest thing we can do now is care." He looked at the camera again. If this made you think, if it made you feel something, don't just skip past it. Share it. Talk about it. Not about me, but about what really matters. The screen turned black. No clapping. No music. Just a still picture of Keanu, standing with his head gently down, a cross around his neck, and a message. Sometimes the quietest man in the room has the loudest truth. For the first time in a long time, a daytime TV show didn't just become popular. It became real. Right after the screen turned off, the internet lit up fast. In minutes, little videos of what Keanu said were all over Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. At first, people asked, did Whoopi just get humbled on her own show? But soon, the bigger question was, why did this touch my heart so much? Keanu didn't give a speech. He gave people a mirror. And what they saw in that mirror made them stop and think. Backstage, Whoopi sat alone in her dressing room. She wasn't trying to explain what happened. She wasn't mad. She wasn't even embarrassed. She was just quiet. And for someone who talks a lot for a living, that silence said everything. She looked into the mirror with the bright lights around it and whispered to herself, "Maybe I should start listening more." Keanu, meanwhile, was sitting on a plain chair in a hallway, drinking black coffee from a paper cup. He didn't ask for a fancy room or bodyguards or anything special. He just sat there, calm, the same way he had entered. His helpers were showing him what people online were saying. Some of the messages were really touching. A war veteran said, "You made me feel seen." A teenager wrote, "Now I know I don't have to shout to be heard." Single moms were saying, "Finally, someone speaks gently but with strength." TV news rushed to post clips. One side said, "This is real bravery." The other side said, "Something honest happened today." Even churches asked to show the video during their Sunday service. But Keanu didn't care about being famous. When his helper asked if he wanted to say something online, just a thank you maybe, Keanu said, "The words already spoke. I don't need to add anything." That's when the emails started. Not silly ones. Real ones. Deep ones. A retired teacher said, "You gave me the courage to wear my cross again today." A young man fighting addiction wrote, "I thought I didn't matter, until you said pain doesn't mean you're broken." The sentence from the show, "Maybe we've been laughing at the wrong things," was trending all over the world. Then a big TV boss from another network called. They offered Keanu his own show, a chance to talk to people and bring real, deep conversations to TV again. He said no. Not because he wasn't thankful, but because he knew what happened on that show couldn't be copied. It wasn't made for TV. It was a moment that shook people awake. That night, as the sun went down behind the city of Los Angeles, Keanu walked out of the studio. A crowd was waiting. They held signs that said, "Faith still matters," and "You spoke for us." He didn't wave like a big star. He didn't smile for the cameras. He walked slowly, kindly, stopping to shake hands, to listen, to truly see people, not just look at them. As he got into his car, another message came in. It was from a woman in Georgia. She was a pastor's wife. Her husband had died. She was about to give up everything. Her message said, "I watched your interview with tears in my eyes. I don't need to be loud to be strong. Thank you for reminding me." Keanu read it slowly and looked out the window. The city lights outside looked like stars scattered across a big sky of tiredness and hope. The next morning, the TV show made a short statement. They didn't say sorry, but they did say something special happened, and they promised to bring more voices like Keanu's in the future. Whoopi didn't post anything, not because she was proud. Maybe because she finally learned some lessons that are stronger when you just sit with them quietly. And Keanu? He didn't say one more word to the news. But the people who saw and heard him, the ones who felt it, kept his words with them like little lights in the dark. Not because he was perfect. Not because he won. But because in a world full of noise, he only said what truly mattered. And that was louder than anything else. If you liked this story, tell me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more fun adventures and mysteries. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.